Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Welcome to day 10 of Teaser Season for patch 3.22 and the Trials of the Ancestors expansion. Day 10 is going to be a quiet day because days 9 and 5 had the biggest pieces of information. Day 5 was the patch notes, day 9 was the 2020 gem info. If you missed any of that, there'll be links to it in the last 20 seconds of this video on the screen. So, the first piece of new information we got today is some of the little trinkets that you can gain that will help you in the Trials of the Ancestors themselves. Lightning Rod will provide your defender teammates a whole bunch of charges, amping up their combat prowess. Dying Roar will amp up their combat prowess in a slightly different way, causing them to go kaboom when they die. And Queen's Inspiration will give you Tailwind and will also propagate this to your nearby allies. I believe that these are single use, although we'll find out all the mechanics of that once we're able to play with the league itself. Secondly, there were a couple of things added to the recently asked questions section over on the Grinding Gear Games official site. Now, one of these was so significant that I made a separate video about it, but the very short version of this is that the Guardians minions that it summons, we got all the details of those yesterday, and the auras that they propagate are incredible. They're going to be level 27.5 if your character is level 85 or higher, and if you're lower than level 85, they will be equal to the highest level aura that you could equip on your character. So if you're level 72, that will be aura level 21. Now, my understanding is that these will not be benefited from any of the stat increased effect of non-curse auras, so it's not going to be something that you can scale up with gear, but these are still going to be incredible, and it's just going to free up the ability for you to run different auras yourself instead. Get Hatred, get Wrath, and get Anger from your Ascendancy, and then run different auras yourself. The Guardian Ascendancy node that summons Elemental Relics is probably going to be the most expensive Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame combination in the game, because every Hierophant wants this, every Inquisitor wants this, because it is just so strong. And a Guardian can definitely get a lot of benefit from them as well, and then free up all of their mana reservation to be used on different things. The other thing that was added to the RAQ is a clarification about Locust Mine support. Locust Mine is just going to throw things at the same throwing range as other mines, Blast Chain Mine and the like. It's just not going to be able to detonate them if you are extremely close to them. You'll have to move further away in order to detonate. The next piece of news that was brought up is something that always gets misread by someone, and Grinding Gear Games really should be a little bit clearer when they post this. Private leagues for Path of the Exile Trials of the Ancestors are now available, except the leagues aren't available to play. All that is available now is your capacity to start doing all the administrative work that goes on in a private league. You're now able to create the private league, you're able to invite people to it, you're not able to play it until everyone else gets to play the game in a couple of days' time. Finally, there is the item filter information, and this has something very, very, very important in it. There is a major change to existing filters that is going to brick all existing item filters. They can be fixed, but I would suggest you probably create a new one. So, item class changes. Active skill gem is being changed to skill gem. Support skill gem is being changed to support gem. This is a standardization of terminology across the game, but it is going to brick every existing loot filter in the game. So if you're someone who makes your own loot filter, you'll want to keep this in mind. If you're someone who uses a Neversink filter, Neversink will definitely be on top of this. And the same for other popular filter makers, such as Hobbit and Tai Killer. They'll be on top of this, but if you make your own, you'll need to pay attention to it. And if you're using one from 321, you won't be able to do so. You'll get an error message and you won't be able to load that filter. The other thing that's included in the item filter information though is some information on new items that will be added to the game. But most importantly, this is all of the tiering of all of the maps. So you have the items that are tied to the integration of the Sanctum mechanic. So that is the Forbidden Tome, the Sanctum Archives research, Sanctum Vaults research, Cathedral research, and Necropolis research, and also all of the different relics that are being added to the game. We've got all of the new support gems, but the really significant stuff, we've got all of the names of all the different tattoos, if you want to speculate on what they do, and then all of the tiers of all of the different maps that are going to be here. This is one of those leagues where the maps are interesting. The low tier maps are a lot better than they've been in recent times, and in particular, tier 4 is going to have Cage, which is one where you can farm yourself Chains That Bind, one of the most important divination cards in the game, and tier 5 is going to have Cells, which also has Chains That Bind, one of the most important divination cards in the game. It will be much easier to farm your first 6 link in this league than it was in 3.21, when the first time that you could get one of these cards was in tier 10 maps, and that was also in Cells map, because that was a tier 10 back then. On top of that though, you'll notice that a lot of the popular layouts are fairly low in tier, and the tier 16 maps are pretty bad this time. So if we bring up the tier 16 maps, you'll see we've got Channel, Infested Valley, Silo, and Ivory Temple. This means that it's not really going to be popular to be throwing around Horizon Orbs on tier 16 maps in order to get one of these maps. You might do it if you've got something completely awful like Val Pyramid. you might try and turn that into a channel because it's less bad, but you're not going to be enthusiastically applying Horizon Orbs in order to make a good map better. You're going to be doing it in order to make a terrible map mediocre instead. Horizon Orbs, therefore, a bit worse than they've been in recent times. Otherwise, though, if you want to have a look at all of the different map tiers, I will put a link to that down in the description of this video below. Most importantly, being able to farm your first 6 link in white maps and not having to go for a bad divination card like Humility. Remember that Humility is now twice as rare as Chains That Bind, and also it gives you a worse 6 link, so you never want to farm Humility. You always want to farm Chains That Bind instead. You're able to farm Chains That Bind in white maps this time. That is going to be a lot better. May your Vaal Orbs have interesting results, and I will see you around.